Today we are looking at this Rosemary and Co. Eradicator brush for watercolor. This is the medium size. Let's see if it'll focus there. This is the small size. You can see it's very small with a very short. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Has a very short bristle on it. And we're going to compare those to the brushes I normally use. What I normally use to lift paint is just this inexpensive 3/8" Master's Touch brush from Hobby Lobby. And for the smaller brush, I use this number 4. It's a Titanium by Robert Simmons shader. Small brush. I also sometimes I use this Princeton flat shader. This is a number 8. This one's a bit soft, but it works. We're going to try them on here and see if it's worth the trouble of ordering these Rosemary brushes. Now, I got mine from Townsend Atelier in Tennessee, and they're a lovely company. They sent a beautiful package, beautifully wrapped, but you do have to pay the shipping, which really raises the price of these. Of course, if you order them from the UK, you've got that whole issue too. So I've stained my little paper pad here. This is 100% Soho watercolor paper, just an inexpensive watercolor paper. So the first one we're going to do is the small Rosemary, and we're going to wet it. We are going to take it on its point and see what kind of a line we can get. Clean it. See if we can get a finer line than that. So it does a nice job. Let's try making some marks with it. Clean it. Let me lay these other brushes down so they don't interfere. And let me get a soft paper towel, which is normally what I lift with. Let's see here. Clean that off. Now this is phthalo blue, so if you can lift phthalo blue, you can probably lift anything. You can see it's not getting it all the way back to the white of the paper, but let's try it here some more. Okay. So it does a good job. It's softer than I expected, but it's definitely softer than one of the scrubbing brushes that you can get. But I don't use those because they will absolutely ruin your paper. So you can get quite a fine line with this. So that's nice. So let's try it on the magenta. This is quinacridone magenta. And I chose highly staining colors to see how well it actually does lift. Now that's pretty good right there. Okay, and it is beading at the edge. If you can see this, there's a little water bead there, and I don't like when the brushes do that because you can mess your painting up with that, but you just have to keep an eye on that. All right, there we go with that. Just make some marks. So it works better to actually wipe it with the paper towel than it does just to wipe the brush on the paper towel. That's coming back pretty well there though. So, all right, let's try the phthalo green. It's another highly staining color. Give it a minute there. Now that came back pretty nicely. either way. All right, that's a nice clean. Now see, it's still doing that beading thing. So check that every time. All right, now this is ultramarine blue down here. Keep your cloth turning so that, or your paper towel turning, so you don't end up. Okay, let's try that. That's lifting nicely. Did you see we're really not getting back to the pure? We almost got back to that one on the phthalo green, but we're not getting back to the pure paper. Phthalo turquoise, another phthalo color. Now that came back beautifully. Okay. So let's try our little Z. That came back beautifully. That's surprising right there. All right, now this is Soda Light, which is a Primatech color by Daniel Smith. And I put this on kind of heavy, so let's see here. That came back nicely. Let's do our little Z. That's not lifting very well, but this is a very sedimental paint. It sits on top, but it's very thick and granulating, so it's not coming back as clean on that. Could be because it's thick, though. All right, that was the little bitty one, the small. So let's try the medium size. We'll just dampen it and go in here. See what we get that way. Just blotting it off. Then we'll try. Now that brought that back a little better. That's going back to the paper a little bit better. So it's better to use your paper towel. All right, let's see. This has a much thicker bristle on it, so you're not going to get that fine line. But it'll be good for scrubbing larger areas like this. And we're seeing we're pilling the paper a little bit there. All right, let's try the phthalo green. And that's coming back surprisingly well. That surprises me that you can get that phthalo green that light. But I didn't put a heavy load on it, but I'm real surprised at that. The ultramarine, let's do that. Of course, that's an easy color to lift, so no problems there. Phthalo turquoise. And I'm kind of messy with this, but to be able, yeah, that's coming back nicely. Always using a clean corner of your paper. So it did a nice job on that one. Got a bloom up there. All right, let's try the Soda Light. You can see how heavy that pigment is. It's a very heavy pigment. So I doubt that's going to go back. So pay attention when you're choosing your colors and you know you're going to be needing to lift. So you try not to use staining colors. All right, so let's try my other little brushes. All right, let's try my other brushes. Let's try the little guy, the number 4 titanium shader, the one that I normally use for this. So the question is, do you need to go to all the trouble to order an Eradicator brush from Rosemary? And honestly, I think this little inexpensive acrylic brush does just as well. So the answer is no. If you have access to them, by all means. If you have easy access to them, by all means. They're definitely good brushes. But are they that much better than these inexpensive brushes? And I think the answer to that is no. That small one has what you want to look for is the smallest brush with a tight point. The smaller the point, of course, the smaller the smaller the tip, the finer the tip, the smaller the line you're able to get. So that's pretty good. I think I can get a little bit smaller mark with the Rosemary brush than I can get with the one I usually use here. But it could be that this is worn also. So, see, just, so as long as I contaminated that. So here's the ultramarine. And I'm lightly touching this paper. I am not, it sounds like I'm scrubbing this, but I'm not. I am hardly touching it. You can do a bigger area just by adding water, scrubbing it back. That comes back beautifully. That really surprises me. Here's the soda light. So see, that works. And that's just that little inexpensive brush. Okay, so now let's try this one from Hobby Lobby. That's at the 3/8 inch brush. You can see it works just fine. You're getting about the same result that we got with the medium-sized Rosemary brush. I love Rosemary brushes, don't get me wrong, I do. They're great brushes, but they're also very hard to get in the United States. So, question is, can you find an easy substitute? And the answer is yes, you can. You can just go to your Michaels or your these are not expensive brushes. You don't want to use expensive brushes for this. See, it does just as beautiful a job. You really need you don't want a watercolor brush either because they're a little too soft. So what you want is like an acrylic. You don't want a bristle oil brush, but you want an acrylic synthetic brush. It's really what you want. You want a synthetic 3/8 inch, or that's about the right size for the medium, I think. So there you have it. This other one, we can do it as well. The Princeton, that's softer. I don't think it's going to do as well, but we can try it. We'll try it over here. Actually, it does, but you have to have a very light touch with the Princeton because it's soft. So that's the Princeton flat shader. Let's try it down here. It's hard to pull these darks up. All right, so I hope you found this helpful. If you have Rosemary and Company available, by all means use them. They're lovely little brushes. I love this little tiny one. If you don't, just go find an inexpensive shader brush. Let's see here if I can show you the difference there. There you go. So this flat one. So these two are roughly the same size. These two are roughly the same size, but you see how short this one is? The shorter the better when it comes to these scrubber brushes. So I hope you found this helpful.